My name's Clive Foster. I'm the Senior Minister of the Pilgrim Church in Nottingham, and I'm also the Vice Chair of Windrush National Organisation. So we will begin just by offering a word of prayer at this time. So those of you who wish to join me in this can do so now. Shall we pray? Father, we thank you for your goodness and your mercy towards us. We just ask that your blessing, inspiration, and direction will be upon this meeting. We thank you for everything that you are to us. We pray that your mercy will abide and continue to direct us as we look to you in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, again, I just want to thank you and welcome for joining us this evening. I just want to kick off with the usual, as it were, Zoom protocols. We are asking that please that you keep your audio on mute throughout this session unless you're speaking. The meeting will be recorded, so please do take note of that this meeting is being recorded. There will be a question and answer session, and so there will be the opportunity to ask questions. And obviously, all that we are simply asking that the asking of questions, that this will be done respectfully, that it will be to the point, so as many people as possible can participate, and so that we can get full responses from those who we're asking questions of. Look, we are encouraging you that as you ask questions, perhaps you might not get that chance to do it online, so verbally, so there is the chat facility that you can also put your questions in also as well. And we intend to try and pick up those questions in the chat and share them to whoever needs to respond to them. What we have been doing and will continue to do as well, if we cannot answer all the questions and they're in the chat, we will capture those questions and send them to the Home Office or whoever is best placed to answer those questions, and then we will endeavour to get responses and then publish those answers on our website as part of the response, which is the windrushnationalorganisation.com. So look, this engagement, online engagement, is an opportunity for you to get the very latest on what's happening nationally in responding to the Windrush scandal, and to hear about other activities related to the Windrush generation and their descendants. So in tonight's session, you will be hearing from our chair, Bishop Desmond Jadu. You're going to be hearing from one of our Windrush National Organisation partners based in Oxford. We're going to be given an opportunity to hear a short presentation on COVID-19 vaccine engagement as it relates to the Windrush generation. There will be an opportunity to hear the latest update of the Windrush compensation schemes from the head of compensation scheme, Thomas Gregg. There are also other Home Office personnel who are here tonight as well, who may be able to deal with such questions around status also as well. One of our main key speakers and contributors this evening will be the Chief Executive of We Are Digital, Matthew Adam, who will be providing information about the Claim Assistance Service. And then we will have a question and answer open forum, and we'll tell you more about that when we get to that, and some closing remarks from Bishop Desmond Jadu. So at this point, speaking of Bishop Desmond, I'd like to invite Bishop Desmond Jadu, Chair of Windrush National Organisation, to come forward now and to share a few words at this time. Bishop Desmond.
Thank you, Reverend Clive Foster, and good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining us this evening for this, as Clive has said, it's our fourth national engagement meeting. And we did say that we are doing these monthly, and I'm pleased to say that we've already got topic areas for April and May. In April, we have invited the Cross-Government Committee on Windrush, representatives from that, to come on our meeting. That was requested, and we've done that. And status has been rearing its head for varying reasons, and we're hoping in May we will have directors of the actual status scheme that will be coming to talk to us as well and take your questions. The reason I share that is to ensure that you are fully aware that we have been listening to you in terms of how you want this agenda to be set for the meetings. As Reverend Foster has said, this evening He's talked about who you'll be hearing from. The important thing about this evening's meeting is that information will be shared with you. And one thing I would ask is this: when you're asking questions, please ask questions this evening, and importantly as well, make them as relevant as you possibly can. Please don't give out your personal information because of clearly it's been recorded. You can provide that to us privately, and we will raise those issues with the Home Office as we've been doing from other meetings, and we do give feedback as well. And in terms of the Windrush National Organisation, we do have a strategy document on our website, which is windrushnationalorganisation.com, which many of you have visited because that's how you got the link for tonight's meeting. Importantly, we're an umbrella organisation for 15 independent Windrush organisations across the country. And we're demonstrating that in our meetings now. So in a second, I am now going to introduce you to Windrush Legacy Oxon and our partner in Oxford, and that's Neil Mucker. So Neil, good evening and welcome. Over to you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, fellow members, and thank you, fellow guests, for this evening's meeting, for arriving at this evening's meeting. My name is Neil Mukherjee, and I am a Windrush survivor. I have been personally affected by the Windrush crisis as a close family member. My sibling brother has been affected, and so my parents. And this came to light from the 1980s onwards. And as we are aware, the Windrush crisis came to its peak threshold in 2015. And it came to light in the news from 2018 onwards. And from that moment in time, I realized the full extent of the Windrush crisis and how many families and communities have been affected by this Windrush crisis that has come to light in the past few years. More so that I have realized that the different communities like the Caribbean and African communities and broader communities across the Southeast Asia, Commonwealth, and further afield have been affected. And when this full extent came to light, I then found it was very important for myself to get more involved with matters relating to the Windrush crisis and how it has come to light, and to understand the full extent of this crisis. So my initial work started with the Windrush National Organisation in its formative stages when it was progressing as a formative organisation as to where it is today. And with the help of the Windrush National Organisation, I have progressed with a community organisation called Windrush Legacy Oxon. And I'm going to tell you a bit more about the work I have been doing with Windrush Legacy Oxon. I am the founder of Windrush Legacy Oxon and also a director, one of the directors of Windrush Legacy Oxon. Before I tell you a bit more about my work, I want to give you a bit more information about Oxford as a city. Now, I live in the East Oxford constituency of Oxford in Oxfordshire, and Oxford can be very much explained as a tale of two tales of one city. Two tales of one city. On the one hand, we have Oxford as an elite national city in the United Kingdom. It has a lot of universities, Oxford University and local universities, well known across country and internationally, and has a lot of elite people living in Oxford. But on the other hand, we have an Oxford that is suffering with homelessness, an Oxford that has got a lot of issues relating to poverty, and also mental health is a big major issue in Oxford as well, mental health distress and mental health difficulties. On top of that, we have had COVID-19 in the past year, which has made matters further complicated. My work in Oxford has been very progressive. It has been I have been working with local stakeholders, including Windrush steering groups in Oxford, as well as with the local city council. I've been very actively involved with faith centers, including Caribbean and African churches, mosques in Oxford, in East Oxford, as well as the local Gurdwara here. I've also been working to work proactively with community organizations, in addition to the faith organizations, and with the city council. My observations to date have been that the response is there is an interest in the Windrush schemes and how to engage with the Windrush schemes and to get more information about this, but it is still tentative and there are concerns about how to move forward and how to gain trust and confidence. Above all, COVID-19 has not helped as well. I'm also going to briefly tell you a little bit more about the work involving relating to my engagement, which has also shown me that the work is continuing at its tentative stages, but also that there is a demand for further involvement. And my work with Windrush Legacy Oxford is on a twofold premise. On the one hand, I'm working to bring justice and give people affected by the Windrush crisis, communities affected, families affected by the Windrush crisis, their justice, their dignity, their self-respect back and their foothold back in their country here, but also to preserve and to cherish the contributions of the Windrush generation and their descendants to date, because this is a vital part of our history, of not just the Windrush history, but a part of our national and local history in Oxford. And we have a responsibility for ourselves and the wider communities to acknowledge this contribution that the Windrush generation and the descendants have been giving to Oxford and further afield across the country to date, and how we have made this country a very much more inclusive, diverse and inclusive nation and local communities coming together. So that is my update from Oxford. I do thank you for your listening in today. Any questions, please do feed them through as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Neil, for that update, and thank you for reminding us that this effect of the Windrush scandal, as you know, goes right across the nation. And thank you for the work that you're doing in Oxford and reaching people who are affected there as well. And as Neil says, he's looking to develop that work in Oxford. So if you know anyone in that part of the country who perhaps is in need of support with regards to the responding to the Windrush scandal, do get in contact via our website, and we'll be happy to link you up with Neil and the work that's happening in Oxford. Thanks again, Neil.
Thank you.
We're now going to move on to the next part of our agenda this evening, and I'm delighted to have with us Rudy Page, who was an advisor around vaccine equality from NHS England. And Rudy will be giving us a presentation around the COVID-19 vaccine engagement and giving us a few updates on what's happening with that from his vantage point from NHS England. Rudy Page, over to you.
Thank you very much for that, Clive, and good evening, everyone. My name's Rudy Page, and thanks for allowing me to say a few words. And in fact, since 2018, I've also been active on behalf of churches and community organisations in matters relating to the Windrush status and compensation scheme to provide information, advice and guidance. I've worked in the NHS and Royal Colleges as an independent policy implementation consultant for over 20 years, particularly within the areas of system transformation, equality and inclusion. We've been commissioned by the Vaccines Equality Programme within NHS England to provide a series of activities to support vaccine confidence within African and Caribbean communities. So we're facilitating a series of online dialogues for communities and the workforce using trusted messengers, transformational influencers, and a wide range of social media channels, including Zoom, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, and YouTube and our digital radio stations as well. The key words for the programme are informed, reassurance, choice. And they're supported by some key questions for the community, for our community as well, including what information do you require to reassure you that the vaccine is safe? What information do you require about the vaccine itself? And what is your understanding on how the virus is spread among families, at work, and across local communities? And from a system perspective, we're also looking at the facts about the vaccine, why you should take the vaccine, vaccine safety and reassurance, understanding the transmission of the virus, and the rate of mortality and deaths, risks and consequences for not taking it. And as you're probably aware as well, that you don't need a GP, you don't need to be registered in order to access the vaccine. So the overall outcomes are to help boost vaccination confidence by ensuring that people have access to accurate information about COVID-19 vaccination program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rudy, and for sharing us that presentation. And obviously, this is something that is obviously affecting the nation. And obviously, as Rudy said in his presentation, he has experience in supporting people from the Windrush generation. Sadly, we've lost so many people from the Windrush generation. And we want to make sure that the information is out there, that people can make an informed decision around this vaccine. And Rudy Page is one of those people who is in a great position to help with that. So I know this is an ongoing situation, and it's a changing situation, but to get that real kind of authentic information from the health services, you know, please do be contacting information from the likes of what you've heard tonight. And Rudy will put his details in the chat where you can get more information, support wherever you are across the nation. And because this is something that is affecting our community, we know this disproportionately. And it's important that we are taking the right response by having the right information. So thank you very much, Rudy, for that. And please do stay on if you can. And there may be the odd question that pops up throughout the meeting, but thank you for sharing that with us this evening. We're now delighted to, I'm going to bring in Thomas Gregg, who is the head of the Windrush Compensation Scheme from the Home Office. And we're going to invite Thomas just to give us the latest updates very briefly. We will be having question and answer sessions lately, so this is just an opportunity for Thomas to present to us the latest data since we last met regarding the Windrush Compensation Scheme and anything else associated with that. So Thomas, if I can ask you to come forward, and welcome to this evening's meeting.
Thank you, Reverend Clive. Thank you as ever, and I will try and stick to the time. Just the first thing I would say is we'll have a presentation in a moment from our partners, We Are Digital. There are a few more people from the Home Office than usual online today, so I should probably just introduce them. So my colleague Marianne Mason is here, who manages our helpline team and is responsible for the contract with We Are Digital. Also Caroline Lawless, our head of policy, and what Caroline will try to do is to respond to questions in the sidebar while we're talking, so that we don't have to take as many questions away as we do sometimes. So Caroline will try and respond to you in real time. There's also a couple of our caseworkers online as well. We're increasingly, thank you very much actually to the WNO for allowing us to do this, encouraging our caseworkers to attend these meetings as observers so that they can hear the kind of things that are said, and it can help them to understand the impact that their work is having and the outreach that we're doing. So we have a couple of people on from there as well. And of course, David, as usual, who you will all know is also here to answer your questions. So hopefully we have a broad enough team to respond to as many things as possible. I will keep my update brief because I know the focus of today is the We Are Digital presentation. Just a couple of updates from the compensation scheme. We continue to increase the value of both offers and payments made, and have continued to do so over the last few months. I think the last published stats showed payments of just over 4 million, and we have continued to increase since then. There'll be further statistics released next week. We have nearly completed the exercise that we were undertaking to review all of the claims pending after the changes we made in December. I would encourage anyone who is aware of people who haven't heard anything from us as a result of the outcome of our consideration after those changes to get in touch with me. Most people have my email details and/or via the WNO. Most people should have heard from us one way or the other after those changes now. So if you haven't, do get in touch. I think now is the time. There are only a few people left for us to consider. I wanted to just pick up a couple of things really quickly before I move on to kind of what's happening next. So the first is that I know that people will unfortunately have got letters from us which say that at the moment they're not eligible for what we call a preliminary payment, the early payment we make of £10,000. And I just wanted to say a couple of things about that. The first is to reassure people, firstly, that does not mean that their claim is never going to be successful, or that they're never going to receive any payment or any offer. And secondly, to say that even if we are unable to make a preliminary payment at the point that we first look at a case, we will continue to consider making that payment throughout the process. So we will look at the evidence people provide, we will work with people to provide evidence, we'll seek evidence from other sources, and as soon as we see enough evidence, or any evidence really, to support the award of that award, we will make it. So I just wanted to reassure people of that, because I know there's been some concerns. Then just the second thing I wanted to say is I know that people are frustrated at times about how long it takes from them accepting an award to getting a payment. The normal amount of time that takes is about 3 weeks, although I know it can take longer than that on occasion. It is out at around that 3-week point at the moment, because we are receiving quite a large volume of acceptances at the moment. We've put some additional people into that payment team now, so I hope that we will start to reduce that time over the course of the next few weeks, but do bear with us. We are pushing through those payments as quickly as possible. There's then just a couple of other things that I wanted to raise by way of kind of what next. So what are the two next things on our mind? So the first, and Caroline, who's on the line, is leading on this. The first is that we are reviewing all of our guidance, all of our forms, and all of the letters we send to people, to make sure that the letters are as clear as possible, and the guidance really with a particular focus on evidence gathering, ensuring that we're gathering evidence as soon as we can in the process, that we're only asking for things once, that we're not asking for things we already have, and that we're doing that in the most appropriate way. So we are reviewing all of that guidance, the forms, and that will then lead into reviewing and looking again at the training we give caseworkers. And what I would say is that we are involving not only our own teams in that and the people who are making the decisions, but also, and Caroline, you might just want to answer this in the sidebar, we will have or have sent out a request to certain of the partners and people that we work with, including WNO and others, to take part in that exercise as well. So to give us their feedback and allow us to kind of understand from them what we might do to redesign both the forms and guidance. So Caroline said she might be emailing the next day or so, and maybe that would be an opportunity for us to bring that to one of these events as well, if you were willing to do that, and to have a more detailed conversation about particularly forms and how we can make sure we get the right information at the start of the process, which of course leads into what Matt's going to say. And then just the last thing is our operational focus now is very much on clearing the cases that we have, or looking at the cases that we have, and continuing to really try and reduce the amount of time between submission and decision, which I think we all know and accept has been too long over the last few years. And so now we have, broadly done most of the retrospective decision making we had to do around the changes in December. We will now begin to focus on what we can do to start making full and final decisions and to start shortening that time. I'm not going to take any more of your time. I think I've hit 6 minutes, Reverend Clive, so I will stop. Obviously, Caroline in the sidebar, myself in answers will seek to answer any questions later in the program. I'll leave it to you, I think, to introduce Matthew rather than do it myself, Reverend Clive. So I'll pass back to you if that's okay.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Tom, for that update. And as Tom mentioned, there will be an opportunity if you've got any concerns, questions about the windrush compensation, please put them in the sidebar, or just hold on to your question, and you can put that during the question and answer session. So I'm delighted now to give an opportunity to hand over to Matthew Adam. Matthew Adam is the Chief Executive Officer for We Are Digital, who will be providing the Claimant Assistance Service. You may have been aware that obviously it was the Citizens Advice Bureau at one point, and I'm delighted that we've got Matthew with us, who can explain the position of We Are Digital and how that service will be taking things forward. So welcome, and over to you, Matthew.
Thank you, Reverend Clive, Bishop Desmond, Tom. Thanks very much for having me, everyone. Really good to be here. So as mentioned, I'm the Chief Executive of We Are Digital. We've recently taken over in the last few weeks the new procured claims assistance service for the Windrush Compensation Scheme. So I've got about 15 minutes, I think, before any questions. So I'll try and just rattle through a sort of 6-7 slides, if I can just share my screen, which will essentially be an overview on who we are. So just to tell everyone a bit about We Are Digital, our experience, our track record in the marketplace, and then moving to what we'll be doing on this claims assistance scheme. So why is it there? Are there any differences to the previous service? What's in place now? How is it going in terms of the live service? And moving to the referral process and how the actual process will work. So I'll just, if you bear with me 30 seconds, I'll share my screen. Although actually it says participant screen sharing's blocked, I think. Do you have to do it, Bishop Desmond? Hadn't actually thought about that in terms of the technology. Apologies. It doesn't seem to be allowing me.
It is open for you to share, Adam.
Oh, it's just come up. Yeah, sorry, that just popped up with an error message. That's strange. Thank you. That's great. I'll do that now. Perfect. Can everyone see that? Okay. Yep.
Thank you. We've got that.
So a few nodding heads. Thank you. So I'll dive straight in and say there's only 6 or 7 slides, so it shouldn't take too long. So just a bit about us initially. So We Are Digital. We're a social business, which means that we're kind of like a mix between a commercial company and a charity. So 100% of our revenue helps people in need and people who are excluded in some way. We have investors who are social impact investors that want to make an impact in the community. So I think that's quite important to mention. It makes us, a slightly different makeup in terms of a company, and all of the work we do is to have an impact in some way. We've been going about 7 or 8 years, so we were founded at the back end of 2012. The easiest way to explain kind of who we are and what we do is that we get involved in community investment projects. So this ranges from digital inclusion programs, where we're helping to get people online onto the internet, back into work and so forth. We also run financial inclusion programs, which includes helping people on low incomes to manage their money, debt advice and so forth. And then we have an assisted digital contract with the Home Office, which I'll go into a bit more detail in shortly, which essentially is helping anyone across the UK that needs assistance to do a digital transaction that has been moved online by any government department or corporate entity. Our main experience, which we're bringing to this program, is not only the track record we've got with the Home Office, but is also mainly in the social housing sphere. So we've had contracts with nearly 100 housing associations, social landlords and councils over the last 8 years, helping to support their residents with some of those engagements I mentioned, whether it's getting online, managing their money, or helping them with a transactional process or a form online. So that's our background. Moving to our model, which I think is quite important to mention. So as it says on the screen, we have a multi-channel network, you could say, which is basically made up of a number of assets or a number of parts. So the first is a call center where we triage and assess and support people over the phone. We then have a trainer network of about 100 trainers in 40 different regions, which we use to do remote, in-home and local community outreach work. And then we have 300 center partners as well in our network, who are third sector charities, social enterprises, community centres, libraries, and that does include citizens advice bureaus as well. And again, because a portion of that centre network is helping us in this scheme, I'll be going into a little bit more detail as we go through. So how is our model different? I've been asked that quite a bit in terms of the previous service. Some parts of the service remain similar, some are slightly different, but to mention the angle that we're coming from. So the first thing to say is that we have a sort of 3.5 year track record now working with the Home Office on the UKVI and EUSS contracts for assisted digital. Just to explain what that actually means. So about 1 million people a year who are in country, i.e. here in the UK already, will need to go through a visa process of some sort. So we run the prime contract supporting any of those 1 million people that will struggle to claim a visa online with all the visa forms and applications moving to gov.uk. And then we had a top-up contract with the EUSS settlement scheme after Brexit, where any of the EU citizens that are in the UK that had to go through the new visa to stay in the UK, if they needed support, then we also run that part of the contract as well. So I guess what we're saying here is that we have a lot of experience already dealing with sort of issues around the immigration sphere, which obviously has positioned us well to be able to also help people with the Windrush compensation support. We do this through what we call, as it just says in the middle there, a mixed or varied centre network. This is quite an important point to make because it's not always obvious externally in the marketplace. So we're not a sort of another advice agency or a carbon copy of Citizens Advice or other entities. We're quite neutral, you could say. So any of these centres that work with communities, that work with different demographics all over the UK, we operate this managing agent model where we're able to plug those into our network. So we don't pick one particular charity, brand or group. We have a very, very mixed collection of local community organisations that we manage centrally. I think that's quite important because a lot of similarly to this service previously, and a lot of other projects like it often have a fairly sporadic way of getting support. So it's run in silos across the country in local locations. With We Are Digital, we have a managing agent centralized model, which means that there's a common front door where people can call, come into the service through the Home Office, gets referred to us, and then we will be able to decide how best they need support. So that may mean, as it says at the bottom there, that we can book to one of our local centres that happens to be near their house. This is obviously COVID restrictions allowing. We can also send a trainer into their home one-to-one if they're not able to leave their house or they have specialist needs. We can support them over the phone through our call centre, and clearly with COVID, the last channel we offer is remote video support as well. So I think what's important to note is we run all of that under one roof, and you can see it as a kind of one-stop shop or a hub and spoke model, which we're bringing to this service as well. I've mentioned quite a bit about this already, so I won't spend too much time on this. Obviously, we have the experience from the Home Office projects already. Because of COVID-19, in the last 12 months, we have been morphing all of our operational projects, not just this one, but obviously the same applies to the Windrush Compensation Scheme support, in that the face-to-face centre support we have and the face-to-face trainer support in the community has not been possible in the main, sort of 99% of it, because of COVID. So we've changed the entire model to offer remote delivery support and telephone support. What I wanted to be clear about is that we'll always give the individual who is needing claims assistance the support that's right for them. So already we've only been live 2 or 3 weeks. I've heard from the team as of today that no one yet has taken up the remote support in terms of a video session, but we're providing support over the telephone, and we're also bringing on board slowly the face-to-face reactivation of the centres in line with the COVID restrictions that are easing from now until June the 21st. And I'll show you in a second or two a map of where those centres are coming back online. So obviously we have to be guided by COVID-19, but we'll always make sure the channel that's used is right for the individual in terms of the type of support that they will need. And because we offer 4 or 5 of those channels under one roof, we'll always be able to support someone, whether it's face-to-face or not. I wanted to be clear that the network of community-based centres we have does actually include Citizens Advice bureaus. So although Citizens Advice National are not managing the programme anymore, and we've taken that over, Citizens Advice charities in terms of single locations are in our network, and they're a close partner of ours, as well as, it says there, church groups, libraries, town halls, and we have a very, very varied network, which includes some very specialist charities working with demographics, certain demographics as well. Just touching upon the bottom point there, so because of the work we've done with the Home Office already, All of our centres, our head office project staff, the call centre agents that work on this, and our trainers have had to already go through quite high level BPSS checks, which is essentially a mix between a DBS background check and a right to work in the UK check. So we've already got the checks done, and the data protection and the security, we've already passed that at quite a high level. Just because of the time, moving on to how the centre service delivery network looks like at the moment. I don't know if that's big enough to see, but just to call out some of the high level parts of that. So clearly we had so many centres across the UK that we didn't need all of them to be activated on the Windrush compensation claim support scheme. So that's both because of volumes being, slightly lower volumes than needing 300 centres, but also because of the specialist nature of this service. We're using a very tailored collection of a smaller number of centres that either have the experience previously on the scheme to help people, or the way they're set up currently as a community centre would be most applicable to help people in this scheme. So we have 9 of those, which are the green dots, if you can see those across the map. We can obviously send these slides around afterwards. So they're open and ready to provide the service. We have one of our remote trainers full-time who is able to support over the phone, and clearly this is a very small portion of the network. So if we ever get even larger demand, we can flex according to that demand. We have another 5 centres just working down the list on top of those 9 who are ready and have been trained for the scheme. We've had specialist training from the Home Office, which we've cascaded to our centres, but they're closed due to COVID. So we go through, in conjunction with the Home Office, a very stringent reopening process with the centres. And then we have a further 7 who are sort of one step back. So they're nearly ready to provide the service, and there's just some outstanding checks that we're doing. And then we have a further 11 who are at various stages of being onboarded. So if you add up all of those together, there's just over 30, about 33 centres that are at one point of the scale of being ready to activate. But clearly, as I mentioned at the beginning, on top of that, we have our call centre and our trainer network who can provide remote support as well. So it's not just about the centres, but clearly that's a very important part, especially the community centres locally that work with demographics and nationalities from affected by Windrush. Just to move on to the last few slides, I think I've got about 5 minutes, but Reverend Clive, do tell me if I'm running over. So in terms of our focus, in terms of what we're doing, I mean, the high level really is that, and I want to be quite clear about this today, that this entire service and our entire reason for being here and the funding that is providing this service is all about 100% providing support to anyone that needs help from the Windrush compensation claim point of view to go through and make a claim. So obviously, we don't get involved in the pre-referral in terms of how it comes in. I'll talk about that in a sec. And we don't get involved in any of the casework about approving or not the application itself, but everything through that journey of if someone is struggling to make a claim, we will provide them with everything they need to do that. So as it says there, this includes help to complete the application, help with the paperwork, help with any backup evidence they need, and supporting them to give them the best chance that it will be accepted by the Home Office in the right form, I think is the best way of describing it, so that all the paperwork and the process is accepted. So anything in around that sphere is what we provide. We obviously treat everyone sympathetically and we support everyone. The reason we mention that, because it might sound quite generic, is that we're quite different to what you may have in your minds as a normal call centre. So we can have extremely long phone calls, an hour or more on the phone. This isn't about very, very quick like an insurance call center getting through processes. It's kind of the opposite of that. We have a very diverse, very high level, very experienced call center, which we call a social impact call center, who can take the time and are trained to spend more time with people over the phone in very specialist scenarios. We have a lot of experience in helping people who are isolated and vulnerable. As I mentioned at the beginning, 100% of our work across all of our contracts help people in need who are excluded of some kind. So we have a lot of experience of how to help people in those situations. And a lot of that comes not just from the work we've done with the Home Office previously, but mentioning a few there more on the screen. We currently run a vulnerable persons helpline for Lloyds Bank for their 20 million customers, where we support people who are vulnerable remotely in terms of digital assistance. We run a debt advice program across London for London and Quadrant, who are a big housing association there, for people who are in debt crisis. And we have lots of other housing association, local authority contracts. So we're very, very experienced in helping people who need that sort of specialist support. And then just lastly, for anyone that does not have English as a first language or would struggle with the language in terms of being able to get support to go through the process, we can also arrange human translation services in every single language in the world through a third-party relationship we have with Clear Voice, which is a social enterprise interpretation service where they have they can arrange with our agent, the individual claiming, and the interpreter in their language a three-way call that is run through our partner Migrant Help, who's also in our supply chain, and people may have come across them. They're one of the leading asylum charities in the UK. As I've just got a couple of minutes left, just on the last couple of slides, I want to just quickly whiz through how the process will look. Quite a lot of detail there, so don't worry about that. We can obviously send this round. I wanted to just pick out the main important points because we've been asked about this recently. So I think the first thing to say there, just in the blue writing, is that we currently, when the process is not set up to take direct referrals to We Are Digital. So it's just the same as the previous service with the CAB. Claimants have to first go through to the Home Office, and we've put the numbers and the gov.uk URL on screen. I'm sure they're fairly known by now, and they're on all the marketing materials and the collateral. But they have to go through the Windrush helpline team first from the Home Office before coming to We Are Digital, which is for many reasons we can perhaps go into in the questions, but is mainly around confirming eligibility and that they're a correct referral to come to us and they need assistance. So that's the reason for that. Just working along this, just in terms of time, essentially what we're talking about here is multiple gate points where we're checking at every single stage with a certain number of working days in terms of the SLA contract we have with the Home Office, that the person is getting the support they need. So we acknowledge the referral from the Home Office that comes across. We contact the claimant within 5 working days. These are all maximums. They happen a lot quicker than that in reality. We go through the type of claim they need to make. We confirm back to the Home Office we've made that appointment, and then just on the right-hand side, the appointment we make, whether it's in person, remote, centre, face-to-face, in-home, etc., is normally expected to last about 3 hours with our support, which is taking that person through that process, as I mentioned, to make sure they have everything they need to make that claim. And then just moving to the last part of the process, we follow up. So if anyone needs a second follow-up appointment, we will provide that for them. Our quality assurance, we have an in-house quality assurance team. So we take that very seriously on this program. We have a dedicated person who checks every single application that we support that goes back to the Home Office. So it's pre-checked before it's sent off to ensure the person has everything in the right order and everything they need. We help them with the paperwork, whether they need to post it. We can do it on their behalf as well and send them back the originals. And then just to finish on the right-hand side, we follow up with courtesy calls if there's an incomplete application, if someone hasn't got back to us, and we constantly cycle that round. So we ensure that everyone, no one is left behind basically. And if there's any complaints, obviously we have our standardized national complaints process as well. And I promise this is the last slide, but I wanted to just end with the bit at the bottom really, which is the live up-to-date statistics as we stand today. I can leave this on the screen, but essentially this is just finishing by saying that we're also getting very involved with Windrush community groups and the Home Office in making sure the assistance that we provide for the scheme is promoted and that people hear about it and can utilize it, because that's what it's there for. So just to finish with the statistics on the bottom, we only went live on the 1st of March, about 17, 18 days ago, but we only opened bookings on the 9th of March. So we've been live to take bookings for support about 10 days ago. As of today, this week, we've had 55 bookings scheduled, which means someone is in the diary booked for a support session. 14 of those have actually taken place. And yesterday was our very first full application that was sent off on behalf of someone. And we had very good feedback, I should say, from that claimant about how the process went. So thank you for listening, and I'm happy to take questions. Sorry if I run over slightly there.
No, thank you very much, Tom. That's very important. And perhaps if you can unshare your screen and we can get back to...
Yes, apologies, I'll do that.
Speaker screen, that'd be very helpful. And thank you for that. It's really important. I think you can appreciate on the call, not only do you have people who are victims of the Windrush scandal, but you have a number of people who are either community ambassadors, part of Windrush National Organisation, lawyers and other support services. So I think one of the things what's going to be really key is understanding that service level agreement, because you can imagine, you know, that group of support will be coming back, people will be coming back to the likes of ourselves and saying, I sent my stuff to the Home Office and they said they're going to contact the claims assistance, and I don't know what's happening. So it's going to be important that we have clarity around that the service level agreement, and thank you for that. So it's now open to you now to ask questions. I'm going to invite you to, we're going to go through our question and answer session. We've got about 30 to 35 minutes. I'm going to be asking you just to use the reaction button just to raise your hand. It's great to see that there's already lots of action in the chat with regards to you putting in questions and they're getting responses. So really appreciate that. So I'm going to call people 2 by 2, as it were. So get ready for that. And then please use the reaction button. If you are struggling, we'll try and catch you through if you just sort of wave if you can, but hopefully you're familiar with using the reaction button, and we're calling 2 by 2 to ask your questions. So the first 2 people I'd like to introduce to ask questions is Richard Black, and then afterwards Glenda Caesar. Richard, could you unmute and ask your question, please?
Thank you very much, Pastor Clive, for this opportunity. I would like to start by thanking Tom Gregg for intervening in my situation that will facilitate my return to the UK sometime in the summer by the grace of God. Questions for Mr. Gregg. Tom, I cannot see a specific category for people like me who are stuck overseas because they were refused re-entry to the UK and could not renew their passports. How do we go about claiming compensation is one. In terms of impact on life, is there a fixed amount for each year that we were in exile? The effects are irreversible, so that's a level 5 impact on life tariff. I've lost 38 years, as you know, of my life, but my situation is not reflected in the Windrush compensation scheme. There are hundreds of victims like me who have returned or will return to the UK. How will loss of access to employment be calculated for my 30 year in forced absence? One, how return is supported in terms of accommodation, living expenses, opening bank accounts, etc. Is it true that after my return, I will have to wait another 5 years before I can apply for British citizenship? Remember, I'm 67 years of age. And finally, what is the situation for children of Windrush victims who were born overseas?
Thanks, there's a lot there. Tom, I don't know how much you caught of that. If you'd like to, or any of your colleagues who would like to respond to Richard's queries there about compensation overseas and the level of impact and returning.
I'll make a start, and Mr. Black, apologies if I don't cover everything, because that was rather a lot, and perhaps Caroline could answer anything I miss in the sidebar. Might be the best way to do this. So it's very open to people who are overseas to make an application. In Mr. Black's situation, as Mr. Black knows, we have been in touch, he and I, on various occasions about his return to the UK. we are doing what we can within the rules and the scope of what we can do to support you when you come back, Mr. Black. And I know you've been speaking to my colleague Andrew about that, and we will continue to talk about that and see what we can do to assist you on your return to the UK and what you can do when you get here. It's very open to you to claim compensation. We don't set the tariffs by years or look at things on that basis, but we do and will consider the full nature of your experience when making an award as and when you do make that compensation claim, and we will certainly take into account the time you've been out of the UK and the opportunities you've missed as a result of that. So it's very open to you to make a claim either from where you are now or when you come back to the UK. We will consider that claim very carefully. In terms of the question about the 5-year rules around British citizenship, there's a couple of things I would cover very quickly. You may have seen there's been articles in the press today about possible government plans to change the rules and law around citizenship. Obviously can't comment directly on those, but I think where there is an issue is within nationality law. There's a requirement for someone to have been in the UK on a date 5 years before the point at which they make an application for citizenship. Now, we in the Home Office accept that those rules are a problem, particularly where the reason the person has been out of the UK is because of Home Office action or inaction. And I think that's been said publicly, and that's been said by the Home Secretary. So while at the moment those rules are not ones that we have any discretion around, as I think we've said, we are looking at what we can do to change them at some point in the future. And as I say, there's some articles in the press about that today. In terms of children of Windrush who were born overseas, I might defer to David on that. Or David, do you think this is something that you could respond to? I don't know if you're out there, David.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, this is another issue which will be looked at, in the sense that there are a lot of anomalies which have come up due to the nature of the Windrush scandal and the subsequent interpretation of Home Office laws. I don't really want to say anything in relation to what can happen in this state, because obviously nothing's been passed, nothing's been publicised yet. But these will be things which will be considered, because yes, this is another anomaly which is being highlighted. So at the moment, I can't really say much more on that.
So just the last thing I say is, Mr. Black, as you know, you're in kind of regular contact with my colleague Andrew. So if there's anything you don't feel that we've covered, please pass via him, and we'll seek to respond to that when we can.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Black, and thank you for those responses. And just to say, Adam, with your presentation, would it be possible for us, before we come to Glenda Caesar, would it be possible for us to get access to those slides? I'm not sure, and if that's the case, we'd be happy to receive those, if that is possible, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely fine from our We're Digital perspective. Tom, are you happy from the Home Office perspective?
I've got no problems with that at all. I think we should make them as widely available as possible.
Yeah, no, really happy to. And is it best to send them to yourself, Clive?
Yeah, if send to Bishop Jadu and myself, and then we'll get them available on our website and through our networks as well.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, that's great.
Great. Glenda Caesar, please.
Thank you, Clive. Hi, Adam. I've got you down as Matt on here, so I nearly said Matthew, sorry. Hi, Adam. In relation to the We Are Digital, looking through your slides, my main concern is that when they're helping people to complete the form, we have the impact on life bases a lot on mental health and the well-being. Aren't any of the staff trained in mental health for them to complete that section? That's just one question. That's to you, Adam. And then my next question is to Tom, in relation to hi Tom, sorry.
Hello.
In relation to the Windrush compensation, we've had this discussion before. We're still having Windrush Lives, and I'm sure other organisations are still having a bit of an issue with people, primary claimants who have been paid out, and their close family members are still waiting. There seems to be some kind of complexity, and this is what they're getting, or they're being told that they have to wait a little bit longer. Now, you know, I have an issue with that, because as far as I'm concerned, a primary claimant is a case that should be known once they've submitted their forms. Family members, we know that the Home Office has direct links to know who is who and who's in the family. But the close family members seem to be having a lot of problems. There's no caseworker because I've known cases where they just said, oh, it's with the caseworker, but they're not given the specific name of the person. They're not getting callbacks, and they're still having to prove that they are a close family member of a primary claimant. So that's one issue. We've also got people still waiting for primary claimants, still waiting for payments. I would go and say, but I think there's some of them on here who may approach you directly. But that's my 2 questions to you and my one to Adam.
Shall I go first, and then I'll let
Tom, you go first. Yeah, no problem.
I should say, Glenda, it's Matt. Matt, like me, has 2 first names for his name. So
I was going to say you got it right the first time, don't worry.
Matt Adam, and I get
Yeah.
Greg Thomas quite a lot as well. So Glenda, I know you raised these issues about close family members before, and you raised them with Caroline at the AJC on Tuesday. So we shouldn't be asking people to produce evidence that's already been produced in the primary claimant's case. I think my concern about taking people out of kind of order of submission is that obviously there's a lot of people that have been waiting a really long time, and I do want to get through the cases that we have that have been waiting a long time. But I need to talk to the team again about this and just clarify precisely what we're doing and how we're going to handle it. So I'll come back to you if that's okay on that. I know we've spoken about it before, but Caroline raised it with me again on Monday, and we had some further conversation on Tuesday. So I will make sure a couple of things. So the first thing I'll do is I'll make sure that we're not asking people for evidence that we already have via the primary claimant. And I hadn't come across specifically, although I know another one of your members has raised it, what we're doing to ask people to evidence their relationship. And so I will also check that evidential requirement. I am keen to get to everyone as quickly as possible, but I do want to balance, the suggestion of doing what you're suggesting also against making sure that we deal with primary claimants who've been waiting a really long time.
Tom, sorry, it's not so much a primary claimant. We also with the close family members, there's no time scale. They're not being given a time scale. So what do they have to wait? Yeah. And this is what I find in the difficulty. If you've dealt with a primary claimant and there's a close family member linked, what is the delay? This is the question. I can understand there's other people, but the service should be broken up so it can be dealt with issues like that. It's a simple process, like I told Caroline earlier on the week.
Okay, well, point taken, and we'll see we can see what we can do on that front. As I say, I mean, we are really committed to shortening the time process for everyone. I mean, that's what we're most focused on at the moment, but we will consider that. Okay, I'll come across to you then, Matt, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Glenda, for the question. So on the mental health side, a couple of things to note really. So I think the first thing to say is we're not pretending to be a specialist mental health support service. Obviously, there's lots of charities and organizations that do that. However, you're right that because this is an important part of the process, and actually this comes up again on a lot of our community investment projects, especially on the debt advice side, is safeguarding and mental health support. So just a couple of things to mention really is we're working officially with MHUK, Mental Health UK, who are our charity partner of the year anyway as a company. So we have a mental health lead who's Rebecca Claykar, HR lead. But in this project officially, we are our staff and the centre network who work on this project have had official training and support from Mental Health UK so that we can utilise those skills. And then that's the first point. Secondly, on safeguarding itself, so safeguarding in general, i.e. the ability to handle types of calls, spot issues, and signpost to other specialist providers. Across the company, we give the call agents and the teams that work on some of these high-pressured projects where there are individuals that are in distress, we give those staff members specific safeguarding training. And it's exactly the same here with the claims compensation assistance scheme as well here.
Okay, thank you very much for those responses. I'm now going to ask for Charlotte and then Tamika. Charlotte, if you can unmute and ask your question, please.
Hi, I have a question for Tom. It's just about pensions. Is there any update on whether you will include pensions in the compensation scheme?
So, Charlotte, when we spoke, as I said, I mean, Caroline's answered this in the sidebar that we do, employment awards do cover contributions to pensions, or at least employment awards that cover actuals. We are, as part of the work we're doing to review forms and guidance, also looking at whether there is a greater scope for use of the discretionary category, but we've not completed that work yet. But that would be the place where we would do something if we chose to. But as I say, we're currently reviewing how that category has been used in the past and talking to caseworkers about whether there would be a greater opportunity to use it.
Okay, thanks, Tom, for that response. Tamika, if you could unmute.
Okay, hiya. I just got a question with regards to the initial payment of 10,000. I did ask it on the chat and I got a response, but however, I've got like family members who's actually made claims and provide maximum evidence, which I've done the application with them, and they got in return, after a year of waiting, they literally got a reply saying that you're not qualified for the initial £10,000 and we're still processing your application. So I just wanted to find out what qualifies an individual if losing your job, being made homeless doesn't. What qualifies one to fall under the £10,000 initial payment, as well as how can a returning resident, my second question, how can a returning resident put in a claim under the compensation law? What sections do we fill out? I know there's a section for discretionary, because that returning resident would have been exempt from healthcare and everything from not being allowed back in the UK. So
okay,
how
so
do we process that?
I'll give an answer, and then Caroline might want to come in and provide some more answers. So on the specific case, I can't really comment on the details of the case. What caseworkers are asked to do when they're considering a preliminary payment is to identify evidence to show that someone's suffered detriment as a result of not being able to prove a genuinely held status. Now, without looking at that particular case, I can't comment on why that hasn't happened. We reiterate repeatedly to caseworkers that they don't need to look for more than one piece of evidence on this, that they only need to look at for the very minimum levels in order to make the preliminary payment, but they have to see something. So I can't comment in detail on cases that I'm not familiar with. My email address is in the sidebar though, and if you want to correspond with me directly about those, then I'd be happier to provide an answer in that forum than try and talk about it here. On returning residents, I might just bring you in, Caroline, if that's okay, either you or Marianne. I don't know which one of you would be best placed to answer that, because that might be a better question for you.
Hi, thanks, Tom. Yeah, sure. Tamika, are you referring to whether people who were stuck outside of the UK who have then come back to the UK can claim under the compensation scheme? Is that your question? That is my question, yes. Yeah, sure. So they are absolutely eligible to claim for compensation under the scheme. If they're now in the UK and have got lawful status in the UK, then they can claim under any category. Okay, but what evidence do we provide? Because I've got a meeting with the persons who call you up to help you to fill out the form. I've got a meeting with them, and they rang and they basically said, can you come in with all your evidence? And I'm like, what evidence can I provide? My mom has been kept out of the UK for over 40 years. What evidence can I provide? She's not been given anything, and in her 60s now come back to the UK, not been having access to healthcare or anything. So what evidence can I bring? They're saying to me, can you come with as much evidence as you can? I've got nothing. I've got all the declined application that she's made over the years, but that's about it. So what evidence do we provide in that case? And if my auntie, who had so much evidence, got nothing, is there any point of us actually making a claim? So I think it's unfortunately it's slightly difficult for me to say what evidence you should provide without knowing what exactly you would want to be claiming for. But if you've got evidence of applications, and obviously we will hold lots of information about applications that have been made and have been unsuccessful. So all of that you know, all of that can absolutely be used to support a claim. And then, you know, evidence of you know, trying to come back to the UK, you know, anything like that is absolutely, you know, stuff that we can use.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And hopefully there's other people who I know who are on the line as well, who have done lots of casework, and perhaps they might be able to reach out to you as well, Caroline. So that's just a note to other people on the line who may be able to help in that, who can probably reach out to Caroline. Just drop something in the sidebar if you want to link up and provide support, and certainly from Windrush National Organisation, we'll see if we can throw anything support around that. I'm going to invite now Grace and then Shay Claire. So Grace.
Yeah, hi, good evening, everybody. I think I have a question for Tom. I am highly distressed by the fact that my daughter, whose claim was submitted a couple of months back, got a response today telling her that she was not eligible for the compensation. And she was told that she's making it, she's ineligible because they say at the material time when the loss occurred or was triggered, she was not living in the United Kingdom. Now, she couldn't have been living in the United Kingdom because I myself was exiled by the fact that I was wrongly stripped of my ILR in 1985, and literally was stuck in Nigeria for the past 30 odd years before I was able to come back and get my ILR reinstated. So I don't know on what basis they're saying that she's not entitled to compensation, because everything that affected me for the past 30 odd years that I was stuck in Nigeria also affected her. Yeah. It was a big battle for me to get her British passport. She was British born in 1973. And then was taken to Nigeria to enable me come back to the UK to continue with my secondary education. When I went back in 1975, because she was reported to having bouts of malaria, I now went back to Nigeria and stayed there for an extended period of time through no fault of my own. So she has no way of proving anything else as to why she was in Nigeria, except for the fact that I was stuck in Nigeria. So why is she not eligible?
So again, I think, you know, we can't really cover, I can't really comment on that individual case unless I have the details so that I can get a caseworker to look at it or get Caroline to look at it. So again, I just encourage you, Grace, to send your details either directly to me, my email's in the sidebar, or send it to Reverend Clive and we'll get someone to respond to you. I wouldn't want to speculate. It would be unfair for me to speculate on what's happened with any individual case without being able to look at it in detail. People are entitled to apply from overseas, and we do make payments and offers to people who have been overseas at the time that the issues occurred to them. So I'll need to have a look at it and provide a more reasoned response.
Because, you know, when we had the last meeting with you, myself and Glenda both said that whoever is the caseworker that is handling my own claims, they should also have a way of combining it with the close family members' claims, so that it makes it will flow through easily for them to look at the documents and evidence that I have supplied, and then use it to judge the case on my daughter. So I don't know whether that was taken into consideration. I've gotten an offer, which of course I'm not going to receive because I think it was just, you know, I don't even want to go into that right now until I put in my refusal forms. But the fact remains is they've just looked at it, probably not looked at it properly, and then just told her that she's not eligible. A child that was British born, I mean, I don't understand. And she's been living here since 1990, whatever. So I don't know.
Okay,
but I can forward you the letter that was sent to her. I can send it to your email.
Yeah, if you could do that, then I'll get someone to respond in detail if the reasons are not clear in the letter. So, or in any event, get someone to respond in detail.
Thanks, Grace, for putting that forward. And yeah, we would encourage you to sort of do that. And you know, you've got support from ourselves here at Windrush National Organisation as well. And I know you're working with your own groups as well. But do get that information over. But thank you very much for sharing your question. And we really would encourage you to take the option, whilst we got the head of compensation here, to contact him with your case. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. I'm going to invite Chair Claire.
Hi everyone, my name is Shaker. I was lucky to be joined in this meeting by Neil. I'm currently a third year university student, and I'm creating a radio documentary on the Windrush generation / Windrush scandal for Radio Lab Luton. I'm currently looking for individuals who've been affected by the Windrush scandal that would like to share their story and their experiences right now, and also those who are part of the Windrush generation. I'm also willing to talk to charities and other organizations that are helping those in this difficult time. So yeah, that's who I am.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Che. And please do put your information in the chat. And then if you've got any links, if you've got any kind of website, social media or anything else, do that. And we'll be happy to help you get people who are willing to support and understand more about the work that you'd like to do about this important cause. And thank you for the work that you're doing as well as a young person. It's really appreciated.
Thank you.
I'm going to invite Jackie Burnett at this time. And do remember, if you do want to ask a question, please do just raise your hand in on the reaction button and we can line you up. We've got about under 15 minutes, or around 15 minutes in terms of Q&A. Jackie Burnett.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tom. My question is to you on two points. Any analysis done with regards to pension? The reason why I'm asking that question, because a lot of the Windrush generation have passed away during the pandemic, and I'm picking up if people's have problems to maybe have secured pensions and then they've been overseas and they can't access it. It's going to be really important for the next generation to gain access to their pensions. So I wondered if there was any work with regards to that. And also, has there been any work on analysis of case where your colleagues have said that they're not eligible? Because I'm picking up a trend tonight, and what I would love us to hear, as we know, that you've identified a trend. These are the patterns. This is what the Home Office has gone back to address. So I wondered whether you were doing any type of work like that, because what I believe is happening as the Windrush generation pass, some of their descendants will find things that they didn't realize or paperwork when they've passed away. And that's going to be something. So I just wondered whether you're doing any analysis. If you could answer those two questions, Tom, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
I'll answer the second one and then I'll let Caroline answer the first one, if that's okay, because she's the expert on pensions and entitlements. So on the second one, we do loads of work to try and understand why people are not turning out to be eligible for the scheme at different stages. So just to explain a little bit, if people are talking about preliminary payments specifically, that if someone gets an initial letter saying that they haven't qualified, that doesn't mean that they'll never qualify for the £10,000 preliminary payment. As we go through their case and look at their evidence, they may qualify later. And it certainly doesn't mean that they're not going to qualify at all for compensation. It means that we need to do a bit more work with them to make sure, and a bit more work ourselves to make sure that we can get the evidence together to see if they qualify. One of the things we are, as I say, looking at is when we gather evidence, how we gather it, how we make sure we get as much as possible at the start of the process, how we make sure we're better at telling people what we need from them and those kind of things. So we are definitely looking at that all the time, and looking at reasons for people not qualifying and why they're not qualifying at each individual time. So yes, we do look at that, and we will try and address that going forward.
Going forward, can you provide feedback as we move forward? If you discover there's a trend that people weren't providing a certain information, and now you know these are the type of information that you do need, can you come back and tell WNOs and other people that are doing this work, this is the evidence we need, like in a checklist that you didn't know? So the stress that people are going through, that they don't need to go through it. Is that possible, Tom?
Yeah, so sure, we'll do a lot like that. Actually, I mean, Caroline, do you want to talk a bit about what we're doing with forms and guidance, and then a bit about, because that will cover some of this, and then a bit about pensions. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Sure, thanks, Tom. So on claim form and guidance itself, as Tom said, we're doing a bit of an exercise at the moment to really look at the claim form and look at where it is and isn't working. So when the form was originally designed, the the advice from feedback that we were hearing was that we should have a claim form that was really, open and just lots of opportunities for people to write a lot of information, tell us how they've been affected. We were advised that we shouldn't ask too many questions, don't have too many tick boxes or things like that. But what we've actually, what we've found as we've now gone through the scheme, we're a couple of years in, is that actually perhaps we need a little bit more of a blended approach, that by having too much reliance on free text boxes, we don't actually, we're not asking you the key questions that we need answers to. And so that often means claim forms are then coming to us without answers to those specific questions. So what we're doing at the moment is an exercise, and as Tom said, we're really keen to hear from you guys. We're talking to our caseworkers, we're talking to the help team, to really get a sense of how do we better design that claim form. So we still allow people to tell us what they want to tell us, but we do actually capture some of those really key bits of information that then might allow us to make more preliminary awards more quickly. So if anyone has any great ideas, if anyone thinks that there are some really quick, easy changes that we could make to the form and the way that we structure it, that you think might make a difference, please let me know, because we really, really want to design the form, change the form, make it better, so that it's better for you and it's better for the people who are applying, but also that we can then make decisions more quickly.
So can I just say with regards to that, when
Sure.
you do it, so I don't mean to interrupt, I'm sorry, Chair, when you design it, because people, if the community is going to design it, we need to get rewarded for the time and the expertise to do it. So if you do it and then you was to spend some time to engage, to sample it, then feedback, those like people like Jacqueline McKenzie and others that have a lot of experience in filling out the form, I think that will do the quality of like a little focus group. But I don't expect the community to be designing the form for nothing. I'm just being straight with you, yeah? You paid, yeah? You did, so that I just hope that helped.
Sure,
Thank you.
Absolutely. And
Thank
then
you.
just quickly on pensions. Again, difficult for me to comment with regards to pensions and being unable to access pensions due to death because of COVID. But if someone if someone is compensated under the loss of access to employment category, then what we are doing, and we're still doing this work at the moment, it's not finished yet. We're still making arrangements across government, but basically we're going to put in place arrangements so that where someone lost access to employment, their national insurance position will be corrected so that then their state pension entitlement isn't affected. So as I said, that work is ongoing. It's really complicated, as I'm sure you can imagine, but we're in the process of doing it, and as soon as we've completed it and as soon as we're ready, we'll obviously make sure everyone knows about it.
So you'll make up the state pension, but not the private pension if there wasn't a private pension because they lost their job.
Yeah. So the scheme.
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah, the scheme doesn't compensate for occupational pensions, but we are looking at state pensions.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Jackie. Look, we're down to the last 5 minutes. A couple of people I just want to bring in. I know that in the chat, one for you, Adam. I know that in the chat, Jacqueline McKenzie asked a question about lessons learned really from the Citizens Advice Bureau work. I don't know if, Adam, you can respond to that. I don't know if it's happened in the chat, but I thought it was a good point that Jackie made. I don't know if Jackie wants to expand on that. And then just to say, lastly, we've got Amelia Gentleman on the line, the award-winning journalist. And I don't know, Amelia, if you'd like to come in after that and just tell us briefly about the latest update on British nationality law that you were talking about.
Sure. Do you want to go first? Yeah, of course.
Come in on the question. I have responded to Jacqueline in the sidebar. So we, when we're undertaking the procurement, we took the opportunity to speak with Citizens Advice and have a lessons learned review. And we fed some of the work from that into the mobilisation and the training for We Are Digital to support them when they were undertaking training. I've gone back and said to Jacqueline, in terms of the formal review, I'm going to be speaking to commercial colleagues about that, but we have fed in some of the lessons learned from Citizens Advice in terms of some of the challenges they faced. I have to say that a lot of the challenges that they felt that they faced were largely COVID related, and also that, as we've discussed today, that the guidance at the time that they were starting off with isn't very helpful. And as Caroline's been stating and Tom's been stating, there's a lot of work now to look at the guidance, and that's work that we've been able to pick up with Matt and We Are Digital.
And just maybe to add, if I can, to Marianne's answer, because very good question, Jacqueline, thank you for that. I think on all of our programs, so with the Home Office and lots of other partners, we always do,
Jacqueline McKenzie. She's coming up.
Especially we often do independent evaluations where an independent research firm will evaluate the impact of the program. We actually did that in year 1 of the UK VI assisted digital program of the Home Office. And as Marianne said, I mean, our project team, our project managers on this actually requested ourselves to do a lesson learned process with Citizens Advice Bureau, because it's just good best practice on handing over projects. And again, just to finish with, to say that, you know, we're not in competition with Citizens Advice Bureau. They're actually a very close partner of ours, and we continue to use their centres in this programme and others.
Thank you. Jackie, did you want to briefly just respond to anything?
Yeah, I'm really more interested in the Home Office themselves commissioning independent research rather than the contractor, so that we know exactly, because there were contracts and tenders from people around this table in this group. And I think it's really quite important in terms of fairness. I have issues. I mean, and I thought your presentation was interesting, but I wasn't necessarily convinced that you have the experience of working with the cohort group in the way that the work is needed, because the work isn't about digital access. A lot of people who are in the Windrush cohort who are very vulnerable, it's a very, very difficult group of people to work with, haven't made applications on digital platforms before. That isn't the job that's here. The job that's here is really sitting down with people and understanding the impact on their life, whether it's through the psychological trauma, even further, sometimes psychiatric trauma. And I know for a fact that people want to sit with people in their own communities, and I totally heard what you said about working with some of the cultural organisations. And I think that's encouraging. But I do think that the Home Office really ought to share this work around a little bit more, not just, you know, fancy consultancy outfits, but some of that resourcing needs to come into the community. It happens with every other major scandal that you've got, and I've worked on a lot of them, whether it's the Irish abuse homes, the Shirley Oaks abuse homes. There's always been an understanding that resourcing must come into the community. So it's not good enough for We Are Digital to come and say, well, we're going to pick the brains of a few people who work with the South Asian community or the Black community, the Caribbean community. That you might sort of given it to those communities. What do we need you for? So I'm quite concerned, having seen the poor outcomes from the Citizens Advice Service, you know, just over 200 people went through that, and hearing what it cost, and you're getting almost £1 million, and I know our community could do this for a fraction of that, you know, possibly £100,000. We would see so many people and get so much work done, because we are doing it at the moment for free. So I want to see proper independent evaluations as to why is it that the Home Office, and I link it to the whole issue that I think that underpins Windrush, i.e. race, culture and identity. And it's almost as though, I mean, somebody very early on in the Windrush scandal, somebody much higher than anybody around this table from the Home Office, actually said to me, well, we can't really fund, you know, local community groups because they haven't really got the status, we don't know who they are, and they haven't got the governance structures and all that sort of thing. And it's total nonsense. It's disrespectful to the community, because there's lots of really good organisations in the community. And giving people an opportunity to tender for £25,000 to do some outreach work, and having ambassadors, you know, the ambassador program achieved virtually nothing. And some of the ambassadors were ringing me up, and the questions they were asking me were so nonsensical, I just realised that was a huge waste of time. And the Home Office really does need now to settle down. There's a new team in place. We welcome that. Settle down and engage properly.
Thank you, Jackie. So
doing this work day in, day out, delivering successfully, things are where they are, the team's there, we are digital there, but we've got to make this work, because the most important people in this are these poor people who are victims and who remain victims. And I do have some concern about the letters that have been coming out this week, saying to people that we don't know if you've got an interim claim yet, or we can't give you a preliminary payment because we don't know how there's been an impact. I put an example in the chat, but I mean, it's an egregious example, because if somebody, I have seen this case, I don't want to labor the point, but I've seen this case where this chap made 2 visa applications which were wrongfully refused. He got, he missed his daughter's wedding. He was meant to walk her down the aisle. They can't have a bigger impact on life for a father missing out on an opportunity of walking his first daughter down the aisle. 2 other children were graduated from universities, first generation going to university. All of that in the Black community in particular, but I would imagine other migrant communities in the UK, are major, major things. These are major impacts on life. And to get a letter to say, well, we don't know, and you're not getting a preliminary payment, to me, alarm bells rang. And whereas I was starting to settle down and think things were changing, I had a major issue this week thinking, are things really improving?
Well, Jackie, thank you very much.
Tom, I'm going
to give you a right to pry, and then I just want to say, I'm just going to bring in, after Tom, I'm going to bring in Amelia Gentleman and then Bishop Desmond, just to say the closing remarks because of time. But thank you for those points. Tom.
So Jackie, I'm really sorry to hear those concerns, because as you know, and we've spoken about this before, we are really keen to be as open as possible and to make sure that the scheme is working for everyone. So if you have seen cases you're really concerned about, then I'm really happy to have a look at them, as I said in the sidebar. And if they disclose any systemic problems, then I'll come back and respond to you on them. We do want to continue to listen. We do want to continue to evaluate our work as best we can in response to the things that are raised by the people who suffered. So you know, I'm really happy to continue to listen on these kind of fora, but also, you know, we've spoken before, I'm happy to speak again. And as I say, if there's anything, if there are cases you're really concerned about, let me have a look at them and I'll respond not just on the specifics, but also to you and to other people who are attending on the kind of generalities that you raise.
Thank you, Tom. I'm just going to bring in. No, I'm sorry, Jackie. We really are running behind time, and I'm just conscious of that. So, thank you very much. But I just want to bring in Amelia Gentleman just for just less than a minute, just to tell us anything with regards to anything around nationality law that's come out today, and then we're going to have to get the closing remarks from Bishop Desmond. Amelia, if you're there.
Yes, hi, thank you so much. I wasn't expecting to say something. I was just keen to hear the nature of the comments, but it is true that I've written a piece today on the basis of advice from an advisor to the Home Secretary, who has said that there will be some changes around nationality law coming up in the changes to immigration legislation over the next few weeks or months. And one of the areas that they're looking at is the really, really difficult catch-22 of people who are either deported from the country or denied re-entry to the country, subsequently being refused British citizenship on this on this kind of catch-22 of having had to have been in the UK for 5 years before they applied for nationality. It's a really, really kind of absurd situation where the Home Office has apologised for something that's gone wrong, but been throwing its hands up and saying, unfortunately, because of the legislation, we can't grant citizenship, even though we know that we are wrong. So that does feel like a positive development. I wanted to say I'm so glad to hear a bit from Tom Gregg in this forum, and I'm glad to hear that you know that this is something that you want to be transparent about. I must say I'm really frustrated as a journalist that I've been putting in requests to talk to you, to come and see your team in action, and to understand, you know, how you're working. And I've been told by the Home Office today that that isn't a request that they are willing to agree to, and it makes it really, really difficult to write about how this compensation scheme is working if I can't talk to the people who are doing it, because obviously I'm getting approached from people who are having problems with the scheme, but I can't put those questions to you. So I don't know if you've got any influence in talking to your colleagues about that, but I really, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amelia, and thank you for those contributions as well. So look, it's great to see you on this call tonight as well. So look, we're at the end of this. So I want to thank everyone for their participation. I'm going to hand over to Bishop Desmond Jadu, who's going to give the closing remarks at this time. Bishop Desmond.
Thank you, Clive, and thank you for everyone for your participation this evening. It's been clear that things are not perfect and there's still a lot of work to be done. I think for us as an organization, it was important to let Matt come here from We Are Digital to explain how they are going to deliver the compensation support. Clearly, not everyone's on the same page with this, but we've got to remember our focus is upon those who have been caught up in the Windrush scandal and to get justice for them. Now, there's been plenty in the chat about contacts, and I just want to make something clear tonight. At this meeting, you won't need any follow-up, you contact the Windrush National Organisation and then we will signpost you accordingly. Thank you, Amelia, for putting your email in there as well. And there are others as well. There are some researchers who are on tonight who would like to hear your stories as they are doing research. If you would like to participate in that, then contact us again initially, and then we will signpost you accordingly. You can go to our website, www.windrushnationalorganisation.com. Now, our meeting next month is Thursday, the 15th of April, so it's an early one because we meet on the third Thursday of every month, and at 7 p.m. Bishop Derek Webley has agreed to join us, who is the co-chair of the Windrush Cross Government Working Group, and I've asked him if he can bring a couple of colleagues as well, because questions have been asked exactly what does this group do? So as opposed to us trying to answer that question, they can come and answer that question for themselves, which I'm sure you will agree as well. There has been a lot of information in the chats. We are sorting out the chat from the last two meetings with the Home Office so that we can publish those answers. There are some additional questions, only a few, for which the Home Office, I'm sure, will provide us those answers for what's not been responded to tonight. There's only a few there, and we can ensure that that's posted on our website. The video of this evening's meeting will be placed on our YouTube channel and uploaded onto our website. This is for transparency purposes, so that people can go and have a look back, have a look at, for example, Matt's presentation as well. Matt, thank you very much. We look forward to receiving the slides, and we will email those out to all the participants that registered for tonight's meeting, and it will be posted on our website as well. In terms of surgeries, the Windrush National Organisation will be recommencing status surgeries in April, so have a look at our website. We'll be doing them once a month at the moment, and we are looking to be doing them fortnightly. We are planning as well, as soon as lockdown eases, where we will be doing the status surgeries nationally as well. And our international engagement program will also be commencing very shortly, and we'll have information on that in about May on what that will look like, so that we can do more outreach to the Caribbean, which is already being done as well. I'm not going to say where, but I'm sure we've got our partners who are smiling quite brightly at the moment. They are in the Caribbean doing some work as well. But we are looking at continuing that work as well in the Caribbean. So all I've got to say, thank you very much for joining us this evening. God bless you. And I'm going to hand back to Reverend Clive just to close us off. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Bishop Desmond. So just finally, just want to thank Neil Mukherjee for his presentation about Oxford legacy, the Windrush group that he's doing there. Many thanks again to Rudy Page, the advisor for the vaccine equality from NHS England and his work on COVID-19 vaccine engagement. And thanks again to Tom Gregg, head of Windrush Compensation Scheme, and to Matthew Adam, the Chief Executive Officer for We Are Digital. But most of all, thank you to you very much for joining us, giving us the opportunity where you can put your questions and get more information to support people who've been affected by the scandal. We're just going to end tonight just by having a word of prayer. So those of you who would like to join me at this time, shall we just pray? Father, we just thank you for your goodness towards us. We ask that your mercy and your Holy Spirit will continue to guide us and lead us into all truth. We ask for your protection, your guidance in all things. And we thank you that you have kept us even to this moment. Continue to watch over us all as we give you thanks and look to you in Jesus' name. Amen. Again, thank you everyone for joining us. And I just want to add, just please stay safe, look after one another and look after yourselves. Good night. And thanks for joining us.